Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. We always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is the vault, episode 423. Stealing people's rights, stealing people's names, life rights. Off the beginning, we're just gonna go ahead and say like, hit the subscribe. We always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. This is a pop-up episode, so if you want to get the notifications, on the platform, you gotta hit all the notifications button. But this is it. Stealing people's names and life rights. We're gonna go ahead and start out for the Moorish community, for the vigilante community, for the sovereign community. They're gonna feel like this is a steal for them on this episode too. Because we gonna talk about the birth certificate. We could talk about that. We gonna talk about the fact that people feel like their name can be stolen. What's crazy is big bank take little bank. So why would you not put yourself in a position where the name that you're managing can buy out other people? Why? Because what's going on is people are saying, oh, X, Y, and Z, they own rights to my name. They own rights to my likeness. They own rights to my image. We're going to talk about it in this episode 423, Stealing People's Names, Life Rights. Shout out and appreciate Michigan for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate Michigan for tuning in live, listening to replay. We got New York tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate New York for tuning in live, listening to replay. Feel free to type in the chat where you listen to live or listen to replay from. Let people know, represent your area, where you from. Let them know where you listening in live or in the replay. But we definitely gonna hop into this because this was brought to our attention that most people may know this individual. We could call him an individual taxpayer. You hear that? Stealing people's names is called stealing the individual taxpayers' royalties off their name. But when you're not smart enough to put it in the right position of a contract, where that name, oh, there's only one of me, right? Did you hear that? It was supposed to be only one of you, like your fingerprints. But they don't do movies about your fingerprints, do they? They don't write books about your fingerprints, do they? No, they don't. They steal your name, your likeness, your image. That's how it goes. Oh man, trust Christian involved. How do I get around that? You say own nothing, control everything. So that means I'm not supposed to own the name. I'm supposed to control it. Stealing people's name. Ain't that what they put on the front of the movie? Your name? Right? Okay. What's the next one? Likeness. Oh, this is the far distant cousin. Second baseman get paid a lot in baseball. The running back gets paid a lot in football. You know, in hockey, the goalie gets paid a lot. So the best scorer gets paid and the goalie gets paid. He's second. So second can get paid. Likeness, it's this gray area but in between image and name. Is what? Name, image, and likeness. This is our legal advice, not financial advice. We already got it in the description, but we always gonna say that. Stealing people's names, likeness, and image. Oh, is it good news? Is all news? They steal your name, your image, your likeness. Why do y'all think when y'all listening to the vault, we don't need an image there other than the vault? Because we understand the internet game. Because the mentor said this is how you move in these environments. So we're going to talk about a platform, and we want to pose this question to our listeners as they listen throughout the years and they think about this as they go through life. So let's just say we know a gentleman and their son, they posted their son on the internet, didn't even have his eyes open. He's 1 day old. That image, right? You posted it on some big boy website. We don't need the name drop. Y'all know the names of 2022, the big names. Say you put your kid's image up there and it was found being sold through a company for a birthday card or a child card. This is how an artist feels when their image is being stolen. Are you going to use my image like that? Well, guess what? They have associations for a lot of these things. Sports have associations. The NFL Players Association, the NBA Players Association. They have associations to protect what? These people's name, image, and likeness. Why? Because they're working for Fortune 500, Fortune 100. These people. These are real people. These aren't entities like the entities people would like to think are just stealing someone's content. But because it's the internet, it's the wild, wild west again. Y'all see how that there were rules that were enforced. We're going to talk about it. It's called what? Copyright. Oh, I'm going to subvert the copyright system. Is that what they say now? You don't need to do a copyright. Make an NFT of it. Let's go there. How many of y'all going to put an NFT on your name and your image and your likeness? But when the company does it before you, oh man, I didn't have the money to do it. Is that what you're going to say? But let's stick to the guy's kid that's 1 day old. You see that card could make that company money. You don't care? Do you care? Do you care like the artists are saying we want to protect our name, image, and likeness? It's not just the artist, it could be anybody. It's yourself. The name, image, and likeness. We could sit here all day on it. But let's talk about it from this vigilante perspective. We said it. We're going to go there. Oh, the government owns my name. When you come from a certain community, they actually call it the government name. If you come from a certain community, they actually call it that's your government name. What's the government name? The government name is supposed to be the name that what? Is it the social security number? Ooh. Is it the social security number? How many people have changed their name? Is it the social? Yeah, it's the social. Because that's what they want to say. So I'm going to change my name on my birth certificate. They change their name on their birth certificate. And then they go back out and they get a job doing business with the social. If they go out and start a business, great. See, there's a business mindset and there's a personal mindset. What you're called may not be the legal name that you may operate as an entrepreneur, business owner, or an investor. That's a legal name. It's like when these companies steal these images, likeness, and all this other stuff, when they steal it, they're companies. See how the company just took that image? See how the company just took that likeness? We did an episode about, what is it? 4PF, Lil Baby, this artist. Walmart was selling chains that look like his. And he actually said the company's got him effed up. Oh, yeah? The company's got him effed up. That's like a name, image, and likeness of my FP. What is it? 4PF. It's on the chain. It looked the same, and they sold it. They didn't consult with him. How did that get in the store? They didn't consult with him. How did that get in the store? How do you protect your rights to trust Christian in the vote? They stealing your name, your image, and your likeness? Because that's a big Fortune 500. They got $200 billion before the pandemic that they literally could just they could put it in a couple stores and they still gonna sell out because people gonna see it and gonna buy it because the demographic of his audience, they shop at that store and they bought the chain. They didn't know that he wasn't getting paid. They just saw the chain there. Ooh, ooh, this is where these people should be rubbing their hands together and going after these companies. And even if the company wants to throw 10 lawyers or 12 lawyers at you, guess what? You get 100,000 or $1 million off of each lawyer that they wanted to put on the case. So when you get that name, image, and likeness suit out because you understand that it was copyright infringement, yes, there's a penalty for it. Why? If you're an artist making $1 million a year, of course you're going to go ahead and say, well, you guys actually just tried to slow down my money because I'm actually slowing down to fight you guys right now. This is war. They stole the name and they're not begging you to get it back. They stole it. They took it without asking. Oh, the birth certificate, though, it's the government name. We talked about it. It's the social. You can change your name at any time because the name is a business. This is what we talk about at the vault. So, we're not going to say, we're going to tell you what we had to consult with the mentors about for this episode. This was a intriguing episode where quite a few people want to protect themselves in contracts and things of that nature. So, let's talk about it. Well, we can't just talk about the problem, we got to talk about the solution. The solution is, did you have to copyright your name? Sure. But the birth certificate people, they came to us and said, we trying to put the birth certificate in the trust. We never said that. Then they'll say, uh, they're saying things that are adverse in a negative way. Whereas we're focused on having that copyright in place that says that whatever name, image, and likeness is protected. Now, we're not going to say you can't get an NFT enforced in court. It's a contract. That's where we are. We're in internet contracts. Is it unregulated to a degree? It's the Wild Wild West. Whether y'all want to know it or not, these companies have been self-regulating for almost 20 years now. If you think the govs came and cracked down on these boys, how could they crack down on Silicon Valley, which literally has revolutionized America and the world through pretty much the building of a computer and a phone? As long as they build those two things, well, in the internet, Silicon Valley once again. But you got these major distributors. Think about it. The major distributors of content still have license agreement with different people and companies. So they're licensing content. Whereas when you're on these social media platforms, is it unlicensed? Yes. Is it unlicensed? How do you get around to stealing people's names? Life rights. It's called not having your name copywritten. We can say, oh man, do you have your name copywritten? First of all, we'll say this much to you: the word to the wise, because we're able to throw arrows for your quiver. You definitely can have a private agreement on your name. Why not? We should have some type of agreement between what we call our fleshly being and ourselves, our spirit, our name. Has there really only been one of you? Maybe not, as far as the name goes. So cool. People put abbreviations. People amend their names. You see a lot of people do that. But the point being is, these people put themselves in a position where they can protect themselves. It's almost like, how do you sign a document? Well, stealing people's name and life rights is, can someone steal your signature? If they can steal your pictures, if they can steal your image, if they can steal your likeness, can they steal your signature? Oh no, that's the last straw that broke the camel's back. Did it? They have electronic signatures. How do you break these contracts? Oh man, you so deep, knee deep in contracts. You just knee deep in contracts. What happens when you say I want to terminate them? At any time, do you have the right to exercise an opt out option? Hmm. That's what it comes down to, ladies and gentlemen. Stealing people's names, life rights. Are you going to give up yours? Oh man, I don't want to give up mine, but I don't know where to start. Do I have the addresses be the same? Do I own the rights to my name if I copyright the name? These companies are pretty much stealing people's name, image, and likeness. Think about it. Once you volunteer it over, you don't get paid on it anymore. We're going to talk about this one company. It amazes us about this company, definitely worthy of your research and due diligence, which is Getty Images. Getty. Now, the Getty that we know at the Vault is a mentor, which is J. Paul Getty. So J. Paul Getty, pretty much a tycoon in business. As you all can see or read about, stealing people's names, life rights. This company, Getty Images, has rights to people's image. But when people post their image online sometimes, it could be a Getty image, but Getty owns that image for Getty's old time's sake. It's like they're putting together a yearbook for humanity. All the stars, all these different things. And we're going to capture time and an encapsulation through pictures, still shots. And it's a Getty image. It's not their image, it's our image of them. Hmm. We're not saying that they're stealing people's names and life rights. What we're saying is they have the ownership rights to those pictures of those celebrities, those whoever's, those they have their name in the corner, Getty Images. How do you get around that? How do they have that much power? Is it because A, they're a company, not an individual taxpayer or an individual person? So it's group kumbaya. I think we have a board. Hey, somebody made a mistake. We'll clean it up later. Let's go ahead and publish that while these guys can't get us in court and sue us real quick. What do you hear? You hear capitalism. Oh, woe is capitalism, really? Once again, we're going to go ahead into the verses now. Because we're tired of talking about, oh, I got my name and my image stolen from me, and I got they stole this and someone stole this. Look, here we go. First of all, we're going to go ahead and tell you that when things like that happen, you seek vengeance. When someone does that to you, you go and you buy them out. That's what happens. If you're that scared, if you're that annoyed, you buy them out. It's a company. And all those guys that made that decision, we're going to say it in the public because it actually happens all the time. When those people get bought out by a revengeful thought, those people aren't working at the company 6 to 12 months later. If that person that seeks to avenge, traditionally in these companies, which we can name these companies, Jeff Bezos, didn't he buy out the Washington Post? He's supposed to be one of the richest men outside of the other guy. But nevertheless, they said something bad about him. I bought the media. This is where we are. Oh man, I can't believe it. They cancel me. How they gonna cancel you when you can buy them out? Whether y'all know it or not, if some of these guys were as savvy as they needed to be on the internet, they definitely would come in and buy these companies out. But when you're dealing with these big, massive companies, dude, these companies are billions of dollars. It's not that easy to just come in there and buy a $1 billion company like that. You got to have quite a few billions to buy the $1 billion company. But when you're making millions of dollars through these social platforms and these media platforms, why do you care if these companies are making money? People count these companies' pockets through the ads. Google's already been big because of ads. Facebook is big because of ads. Even if they needed your image and your likeness, they're rich off of ads. Not through people doing transactions through their websites. But these are supposedly social media companies stealing people's names, life rights, and images. Really? Do you have the name copywritten? They verify that actually. Oh, that's how you get verified? If your name is copywritten in a business perspective and there's business articles written up about you, of course. They're verifying that you have reviews for your business. It's not a tchotchke. We said we're private. Do you see the page? Still private. We're good to go. Stealing people's names, likeness, and rights. Names and life rights. Are they really stealing it? Are they really stealing it? Oh man, why do you think so many artists change their name late in their career? We don't want to expose anybody, but we will talk about what we call the dead. So, people stealing people's names, life rights would look like Prince, the artist Prince, or the artist formerly known as Prince, where he changed his name because he felt like his contracts weren't being up to the standards of him getting paid enough money, royalties, or XYZ. We'll say that. So stealing people's names and life rights is, if you're a celebrity, do we own rights to that name? Who owns rights to that name? Okay, well, I own rights to my own name. Yeah, that might be true. You own rights to your own name, but trust Christian own nothing, control everything. There's a right way to do it, and there's a proper way to do it, and an improper way to do it. How they gonna steal your image and your likeness? Hmm? How they gonna steal it? Because you didn't copyright. Did you trademark your image as a kid? Did a company trademark your image as a kid? Did they trademark your voice? Your voice is distinct and it's copywritten, so it's usually through copyrights. We keep going back to that copyright law. We've done episodes about this before. Somehow it comes up. Oh man, they got my image. Well, who's they? It's not about they having your image. It's about you having control over your image and how it's portrayed in the media. And clearly, just like somebody had a smear campaign about you, guess what? You might be able to buy them out, and now there's no smear campaign on you. It's actually a case where they're writing positive things about you as consistently as possible to flood the media content with equally as good now and actually staying current right now with the plus as opposed to the negative, which was the past. And so, in turn, now you're able to channel that energy into more images of control instead of ownership, because ownership incurs liability. Stealing people's names, the life rights, they incur a liability. They should incur a liability. But do you have a contract in place protecting the name that you use in business, in life? I can copyright my name. Okay. Can a company copyright your name? Yes. Well, okay, if you didn't copyright your name, do you think a company might copyright your name? Yes. So it's best for you to go ahead and put a thing on there. Put a copyright on it. So if anybody try to infringe on it, now let's go there. We talked about the signature. The signature is two signatures. It's the print and the what? Signature. Because most people can't read signatures, but they can read the print. See the difference? So do they did you copyright the signature or did you copyright the name? Because people's signatures are copyrighted. You can't steal Abraham Lincoln's signature. You can't steal dead people's signature. They actually have dead people's signature copyrighted, so you can't steal their signature. That's how it works. It's a part of their name, image, and likeness. It's a part of their life rights. You can't steal their signature. Is that the last straw that broke the camel's back? Maybe, but it's unfortunate that people don't think about that. Like, oh man, they can't steal my signature, but they did try to steal my government name. They did try to steal my what do they call it? The straw man. They did somebody try to steal it. They tried to steal your name. Well, your life rights. Oh, really? No, they did. Did you put a? It's not stealing if nobody had a claim on it, as they may say, right? It's not stealing. That's what they say. If nobody has a claim on it. So this is the country that you're living in. If you're in the States, you got to proclaim. They used to say back in the day, oh, you got to do a proclamation of sovereignty. Nah, you don't want to do all that. But you definitely want to, if you going, if some people say, oh, you got to proclaim you're a living being. That's fine. That doesn't mean you were born with this. You weren't born an ounce of gold. You weren't born an ounce of silver. So how do you get around that? You get around it by saying, okay, well, I'm going to attach this. So now there are attachments to property, which one or two things can be property. And that's why we encourage our listeners to go into property law and not just focused on real estate. Go into property law because the rules and laws for property law are definitely different than real estate law. The property law is a little bit different, dealing with a little bit more general law. So stealing people's names and life rights deals with stealing people's property. The signature is property of the family estate. The name's a part of the family estate. Why do you see family estates sue companies when they steal these people's dead relatives' name, image, and likeness? Why do they have family estates doing it uh as opposed to just an individual family member? Because that name is actually in a business position. Period. And it's not because they're just famous. It's not about it just about them just being famous. It's more than that. It's not about them being famous. It's about the fact that these people have copyrighted or trademarked. They've tried to do that with names and institutions and things of that nature. Uh, and so, yes, names and institutions are copywritten. Stealing people's names, image, and likeness, their life rights, that's not going to happen. You got to protect yourself. We're sharing with you all on this episode how to protect yourself. Feel free to hit the like and subscribe button. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listening to replay. Oh, here we go. Great question. Feel free to type into the chat. Hey, we always open to it. If it's a good question, we gonna answer. If not, we'll be skipping over stuff. We're not gonna entertain nothing negative, but someone asking the question, so appreciate Jeremy Lowe. Says, why do more say people should get nationalized? We're going to ask the question out loud too, because this is one of those things that plagued many people when they were younger. Like, oh man, they said I need to become a Moor and I need to nationalize. Yeah, they did say that. And they said, oh, I need to get I need to authenticate my birth certificate. Y'all hear all this rhetoric. All right, let's keep going with it. Oh, they said that, but at the end of the day, they just don't want to be called a crayon. Oh, I don't want to be called a crayon. That's fair. You don't want to be called chattel property names. You want to be in some more of a what, like a cultural position. We could say it from that perspective, but of course, like, oh, well, we're under a flag and we're under a different jurisdiction. So does your different jurisdiction have a driver's license? Do they have banks? Do they have institutions? Do they have any infrastructure? Well, it was all stolen. So we don't want to talk about like a victim mentality. We could talk about it from a general perspective of our experience with others, our experience from the Moorish information. And if it's like one of those things when people say, "Oh, I'm gonna get it. Here we go. Y'all ready? Oh, I'm gonna get the foreign international passport." First of all, there is no such thing. So they gave you the flim flam on the term. There's no such. But they'll be like, "I'm a foreign national," or I'm a state national or a citizen national. You hear these type of terms? Okay, you gotta go look them up for yourself, so you're not bamboozled into thinking that somebody's about to fly out the sky in a cape and save you. Oh, 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 right. So no one's coming out the sky to save you with no the 75-year plan or the fourth generation plan. You're on your first generation plan. If you're first gen, if you're not on first gen, then whatever gen you're on, you're maintaining and building wealth, and you're protecting your last name if it's Kennedy. You're protecting your last name if it's Rockefeller. You want to know how they protect their last name? Because they bought the media. You got to buy the media. Oh, Trust Christian Navarro, you saying we can invest in media stocks? Go look at them. Are you saying we should look into these different things? Yes. Why? Because didn't we just say Jeff Bezos bought out goddamn Washington Post? Yes. Can the Moors unify and buy out media to a degree to paint a positive image about them doing that? Sure, but will we see that? Probably not. That is a fractionalized group, period. And so, like we say, we talk about the say we talk, oh, well, the foreign national passport. What they say, the foreign national passport, or they say, yeah, they'll say, man, they be saying some craziness, and it's unfortunate because people they looking for hope, whatever that means. They need to be looking for a solution, and a solution to what? Your financial problems. Oh, Trust Christian have all went there. Yeah, stealing people's names, life rights, is messing with people's financial lives. That's why people sue people over their name, image, and likeness. Why do you see people in these positions after they've been in these positions for years say, you know what? I actually need to change my name. Why? So I can get first royalty cut. So I can make sure that, oh, I own the name. But guess what? You forgot about the image and the likeness. Did you trademark your image? We talked about this. Did you trademark your footprint? No, I didn't trademark my footprint. Everybody's got a unique footprint. Everybody. Why would you not put that in a book? I'm putting it in a book. Guess what? It's copyright images. Oh man, the copyright's going to end in 170 years or whatever. But what happens when you create the first NFT? So now you are seeing revolutionary thought in the way these practices are practiced. That's fine. That's internet. That's AVRV or whatever you want to call it. That's not the real world and legal papers too, where when you go say, okay, yeah, that's NFT, but if I need to print something off the internet, I can print it off the internet and sue the hell out of somebody for stealing my NFT. How are you going to sue somebody in court if you don't have paperwork to sue somebody over your NFT? You're going to be able to sue somebody over your NFT or any other type of online content if you they almost want to say you got to have the IP address. You got to have a lot of this data nowadays they want to see in court for you to say that you own the data. If you own the data, do you own the data? Or are you volunteering the data over? So what we do see is yes, people are volunteering data over. Um, but okay, that's what's going on. You don't want to hear that the Rockefellers are private. You don't want to hear that the the Carnegies are private. You don't want to hear that the Kennedys are private. Oh, Trust Christian Paul. Well, they were in the public before they were in the private. Nah, what happened was most of these families were in the private and they went into the public. And they built the name bigger and now they're still protected in the private. But they're not in the public as much anymore. They don't need to be. They understand what a system is. They understand what institutional is. So they just they just added to the institution. They didn't take away from it. They added to the institution. They put people in politics. They put people in different business industries. They diversified. Some of these people had more than one son. Some of these people had two or three or four or five kids. So, we could blame it on baby boomers or you could blame it on wealthy families. That we're not talking about baby boomers. We're talking about wealthy families throughout the time at the ages where the father makes it a point to procreate and have multiple children that can carry on a legacy, because you may have one or two that may not want to do it, that may not want to go out there and build the family legacy. So this is the dilemma that most people are going to fall into. We can already tell you it's easy, a 96 attrition rate. Easy. First gen falling off, not going to make it past first gen. Second gen, 76, and this is in the past 2 to 3 years statistics. We can look it up again, but these are general numbers. You can look them up on the internet. How much wealth is passed from second to third gen? And you'll see 76% under. Goes down to 20 something percent. Wow. And you think you got a chance to make it. Maybe because you go through trustee training. We have a great training program with our trustees. We do our best to give them that. Hey, we can give you some learning curve points so you can get above the failing curve, because the failing curve says that most families won't make it past first gen with wealth, let alone get to the second gen, going to the third or fourth gen. So we already know that that's okay. But now let's look at the families that have done it successfully. They're having multiple children. They're putting their family in politics. They're putting their family in business industries. Maybe a few of them wanted to be an artist. Maybe a few of them wanted to be employees. But they made it a point to make sure that their family members, they were in industries where they could eat well and not have to depend on their parents, where their children could actually have a decent salary in today's system. And they kept the system going. We didn't say that they changed the system. They kept the system going. They kept the system going. Are you keeping the system going? In what way are you keeping the system going? Because once again, these were private families that went into public, gobbled up some wealth, and went right back into private. And that's why you'll never work next to a Carnegie. That's why you'll never work next to a Rockefeller. That's why you'll never work next to a Kennedy. You won't work next to these people. You know what Kennedys we're talking about. You won't work next to these people's families. Why? Because they're in the private. They understand what private investments are. They understand what charity is. They understand that one of the biggest industries in the world is charity. They understand that. People talk about nonprofits all the time. They come on the stream all the time. They want to talk about this nonprofit BS. But then we see these families, and guess what? They actually have money to give away to other foundations, charities. We see it all the time. Stealing people's names and life rights. You're not going to be able to just use these people's images. And even if you do, it's because these families have systems in place. You're not affecting their standard of living. Bottom line. You would be okay with them creating a bad picture about you. Because guess what? Now that I see that you did it bad, I'm just going to go create one myself. Why would people not go create a greater image of themselves? Why wouldn't you be okay with people stealing your image and your likeness? Because it's copyright infringement. It's trademark infringement. That's the bottom line. Can you catch all the stealing that's going? No. But you do want to protect the bigger bullies when they come along. How about that? The bigger bullies, or anybody trying to say that this name or this person or this likeness owes them money. It's that simple. Appreciate the Bronx for tuning in live, listening, replay. Always appreciate the Bronx for tuning in live, listening, replay. Yep. Stealing people's names, life rights. Solutions, make it a point, maybe to copyright your stuff ASAP. That's what we got to do if you haven't done it. And even if you didn't, don't sign your life rights away. Read the fine print. And guess what? Just know if the injured party doesn't show up to court, uh, injured parties have to show up to court, ladies and gentlemen. Not the lawyers. They're not the injured parties. They're defending who? The injured party. Right. So then we go into what's called the civil contracts. See, that's the business. That's not personal. It's like, come on, man. Be okay with somebody stealing it then. All they doing is pumping your name up. Let them come back to source. If it wasn't for you building a name, no one could steal it. Be happy about that. That's how you reframe those frowns upside down. That's how you play the game of business. It's not stealing. Oh man, they stole my name. Did Getty steal your image? You think you really gonna take down Getty if they get a snap of you? Oh, that's the paparazzi. How could they get an image of me and they can't control it? Because they're a media outlet, right? Right. Okay. Cool. Oh. The edge has not fallen off with the Sharks. It's just not known. You buy them out. You compete. When somebody says they're better than you, you compete. You put out a better image. You put out a better name. You put out a better likeness. That's how you compete. Do they want to compete or do they want to complain? Stealing people's names and life rights. No one stole your rights because the injured party has to show up to court. It's all civil. It's business. It's not personal. And so for that reason, tell them to sue you. Isn't that the rules of the game? Tell them to sue me. Isn't that the rules of the game? Tell them to sue me. But you not telling them to sue you. You suing them. Right. And the plaintiff bears the burden of proof. So cool. All you want is a cut, a royalty of the image and the likeness. Why? Because it actually looks like me. Oh, it actually looks like the name that I manage. Yeah. Oh, and it sounds like the name that the likeness. We need some jurors in here. Now jurors, do you see the likeness of the image that we hold rights to, called this name, our name we own, quote unquote, control, and a name that the plaintiff, this big Fortune 500 company, straight up, dang, they're Fortune 500. They got 12 lawyers sitting here. Man, they ain't got 12 for you. They got 6. They got 6. They came with 3, but they got 6. Oh, man. How much I make off the movie, off the documentary? We made about 80 million. All right. Okay, jurors. Now look. In our traditional contracts with a Fortune 500, we only really want 8%. We only want 20%. Okay. So what did they do? They have to decide on that. Let them be impartial, not the judge. Let them be impartial. Let them create their opinions about what they know as a celebrity sitting there. And think about that. Think about a celebrity or a human being sitting there and saying, this person stole my image that I control. They stole it. And they didn't even want to give me royalties. And you allow them to sit there and empathize with you and say, how would you feel if someone stole yours? So The people in the jury might sit there and think, well, damn it, they still yours. How much you asking for here? You're asking for, they made 80 million off of your name. Now the people in the jury, they might not be worth 80, or their name might not be bringing that type of money, but they thinking about it though. Man, they 80 million. They made 80 million. They didn't even give him a cut. Does he not deserve a little bit? Maybe he doesn't deserve 20, but we're gonna award him as he's the winner. Why? Award him damages to the fact that y'all actually just stole it, and in the case, now you start showing how they actually are going to make business bad for you, make life hard for you. They're actually perpetuating these images. Sure, you can say the facts are the facts, but you're not going to go after them after the facts. You're going to go after the embellishments, the dramatizations, because, oh, it's just entertainment. You're right. You're not suing for it being impartial information. You're suing for entertainment rights. See, did you go get a good entertainment lawyer? Oh no, I didn't know I needed a good entertainment lawyer if I'm gonna go into entertainment. They too expensive. We did an episode. You only need a lawyer when you need a lawyer. Well, if you're going into that field, you need to know those lawyers. If you're going into entertainment, you need to know those lawyers. But the lawyers are hooked up with the system. Whatever. That's why your name got stolen. And then when you go to court, you need a lawyer. So you gotta go ahead and build those relationships. Interesting to hear nowadays people when it comes to, oh, they stole it. Cool. What they gonna do? They gonna say they own your name? Think about that. Do these companies say they own your name? That's a fact. Because if that's the case, you're the injured party and you're supposed to sue over damages. But do people do that? Maybe because they didn't have the name copywritten, maybe because they didn't have the image trademark, because they didn't have their own name image copyright. That's their problem. Same thing with the likeness. Did they create? Why do you think a lot of these new artists are creating their own documentaries? Because they're trying to create an original biopic that shows that, look, if you come close to stealing my name, if you come close to stealing anything, and you guys, guess what? If you're big enough, I'm gonna sue you. That's why they do it. Don't be clueless now. A lot of artists nowadays are going to create their own image and likeness in a freelance capacity, and they might let their friends own it. Why? Because in turn, their friends own the rights to their name and that image and that likeness in a company. So even though they don't personally own the rights to it, they're friends that are doing the recordings, the first original recordings of before you got famous. Because what these companies are saying, well, it's because you're a celebrity, it's because you're in the public sphere. Wrong. Let's go here. The listeners at our Vault audience, they know the difference between public and private. Public is politicians. That's not private individuals. Private individuals being their image being stolen, their likeness being stolen, their name being stolen, that's for ratings. That's for ad revenue. Because you didn't get consent. So what happens is people end up just, do you want to sue the big fella? You sue the big fella. Do you win all the time? Maybe not. Maybe because you don't use a jury. Maybe these guys want to use just a judge. You go to the jury so you can let them pick, let them empathize with the fact that, these companies just, they're big enough. Hey, they can give you 4%. They can give you new fees if they're going to continue with the season from this point forward. Why? Because it's big enough. That's how you create change in these environments. It's unfortunate that we're living in an environment, quote unquote, that you say is litigious. But business litigation is a business tool. If you're an artist or anything of the sort, litigation is a business tool. You have to adapt. You're as a artist, your first line of defense is a lawyer. So as an artist, you should always have a lawyer around you for protection of your quote unquote name, image, and likeness. Bottom line. That and if you're a art creative, that's what you get. So when you go out and do business with people, they can't steal. Whether it's your art and your name, image, and likeness, whatever.
That's where we are. It's always been that way. So, after you get the lawyer, then you can talk about having an account, because then they can make sure when you start running check or you start doing business or whatever, you got an account around. That's what you need for your creative business. Like, that's really what you need. You need an accountant, a lawyer, they'll usually make sure you're in the right structure. If you tell them things like that, you want to talk to them about, hey, I want to be in a business entity. I want to make sure that I'm the manager or my friends are the managers. Or when we talk about talking to the lawyer and just saying, hey, look, like, you already know. What do they say? You have a publishing company. There's publishing rights. There's these are things that you get into. So you don't need to know everything. You got to know the lawyer that knows everything. So you got to get around the best lawyer in your area for entertainment. If you're in entertainment, oh man, is that hard? These guys are expensive. No, you got to Google them. You got to call them. You don't need to ask them their rate. You don't need to know what's their rate matter for. You don't need them right now. The biggest thing is knowing someone that is going to immediately impact you being able to file some type of suit. Because you might need a lawyer to do the header and all that stuff and send over a document to sue somebody. So if that's the case, you need to have a lawyer right out the rip. Y'all need to, when you listen to this podcast, you can go get a lawyer tomorrow. You don't need them. You're not, oh, you're going to put me on retainer. Man, I'm interviewing you. I'm about to cut you a check. You hear that sound, boss? You about to cut a lawyer a check. You about to cut the accountant a check. You got to do interviews. You're not hiring the first one. Yeah, I'm asking you questions. If you ain't got 15 minutes to answer questions, get the hell off my line. Of course, that's what you say. A lawyer, what they going to charge you for? You're not paying for anything. You're not going to court. So when you call them, why would you not get at least 15 to 20 minutes to ask them questions about their area of expertise? That's what these people are supposed to be for. Stealing people's name, image, and likeness, whatever. You need to make sure that you got those things in place. That's how we talk to our trustees at the vault. That's how we talk to people in consultation. When you talk about, oh man, how do I protect this? How do I protect that? A lot of trustees, they still come through. Oh man, I'm in trusteeship, but I don't know how to protect the name and the trust. Well, or not even just the name. We're not even talking about the name. We're actually talking about like artworks or pieces of intellectual property or materials. How do you protect that? How do you copyright it? You trademark it. You go say, I'm going to put my best image out. And now I have that on Wikipedia. The same thing with your signature. Who put your signature up there? Oh, we're not going to put it up there while you're alive. We're going to put it up there while you dead. That's a right. That's a privilege, though, to the internet. Those are one of those sensitive pieces of information. Same thing with your image, because when people lift your image, then you got cards. And look, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, there are cases going on all the time about these companies stealing people's images. This is a fact. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen, replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen, replay. It's definitely one of those exciting episodes when we get a chance to talk about stealing people's names, life rights. Y'all know what time it is when it comes to these type of things. Hopefully, the audience is taking note and making it a point to put themselves in that type of position. We should see a bunch of filings at the Copyright Office go up after this episode. And, just see people making sure that they're in a position where they feel comfortable knowing that, hey, if I need to, get down and dirty on somebody, I can, as far as being able to sue. Because then you do have a lawyer right there with you that can help you through that process. You want to be able to have a lawyer right there in that process. Why not? So we appreciate the audience. We appreciate all y'all listening live right now. Appreciate that. Appreciate you. Y'all can ask any questions into the chat while we live. Feel free to type in any questions in the chat. At the same time, we're going to hop off, but at the same time, we're going to stay on for a couple questions in the chat. So it's been a real episode. We definitely know the benefits of being in trusteeship. Own nothing, control everything. You don't need to own your name. You're beyond this name. That's how you get past mental health. You're beyond this name. You're beyond a name. That's why people are called multiple things, right? Because it's not necessarily about The name that we speak, it's about the name that is written. So the express, when people talk about, oh, I'm in the express trust, I'm express trust status. Oh, it's an express trust. Somebody typed in that stuff in the last episode. I'm in an express trust. That means it's written down. And then guess what? Somebody in the chat that they probably didn't come through trustee training, novice mentality. I got my trust documents. Right. You're probably not in private trusteeship. Why? Because you didn't need to say that. You didn't need to put that on the public internet. Questions, questions. One, two, three. Questions, questions. We're gonna steal people's questions and their life rights through their questions. It's crazy nowadays how many questions, how many stories y'all hear nowadays about copyright theft. More about copyright theft, like, oh, they stole my name, or they stole my beat, or they stole my just seeing a lot of like they stole my name. So many people say, oh, they stole my image and my likeness, and it's like, well, are you in this from a personal position or a business position? Because okay, here's the thing: if you put in a suit and then you come out and champion that you're putting in a suit and you're pretty popular, you can actually probably win your suit. That's being honest. You have the public behind you. You're like, man, yeah, they shouldn't steal his rights. Give him his royalties. Don't steal his rights because you're suing, right? Right. And so public opinion has swayed the case. Oh man, yeah, give him his royalties. How could y'all steal his royalties? How could you steal a dead man's royalties? Guess what? That happens every day. That happens every day. They stealing your. They stealing your right. They stealing your. The, people are getting their. Not. It's not so much they're stealing, but if you're not really adept in contracts to a degree, nowadays you'll see people not understanding these levels of what's called property. Property meaning your image, the name, the likeness. Those are separate pieces of property, and they actually have laws that govern like what's the formation of a thought around that. So when you're able to look into what those things are, then you can really get into the perspective of, is it stealing? Because if whether you know it or not, yes, it's stealing. We know your energy, right? Right. That's your name and the likeness and the image of your spiritual energy resonating on this planet right now. That's yours. We can't take that away from you in that respect. But is it an infringement if you have a contract in place that says, look, we were smart and savvy enough to put something in the public because we are in a public environment, whether you're on the internet or if you're in the public in politics, you can see that it's a public domain in turn which multiple people have access to, and in turn, who controls that name, image, and likeness? Who controls that? Alrighty, we got a question coming through the chat. Someone said establish a trust. For stealing people's names, life rights. Well, remember, if you're, let's just say, in an estate, they call it trust and estate law. That's what they call it. So it's even deeper than just property law. It goes to trust and estate law. So why would they put your name in a trust and an estate when you're dead as opposed to when you're alive? Because most people don't know about it. That's the first thing. You don't know what you don't know. They don't know you can do it while you're alive. And then guess what? They said we're going to create the living trust, and that's still going to be publicly legislated. Why? Because you cannot create private rights. Or what do they call them? Public privileges. You can't create a private right. They didn't create private rights. They created public privileges, but they call them public rights. What's the difference? You're still supposed to enforce it. Have an attorney make purchases for it off. We think that that's standing for attorney. We're in the financial field. They do a lot of acronyms, ATTYs, possibly for that, but we'll bypass that because that's a very general thing, and it wasn't even a question mark. It says period there. It says keep family name off of the property, and it's interesting. We'll go ahead and say that at least go into that part at least because that's a lot more clear, which is keep the name off of the family property. Do you see the Carnegie name on family property? Yes. Do you see the Rockefellers name on family property? Yes. Do you see the Kennedys name on family property? Yes. Do you see any of these guys have their name on these rich guys? But they got their name on the family property? Yes. But guess what? The names that we name traditionally are private. And we actually seen something come across our desk recently with Zuckerberg, which his there was a terrible situation on his family estate or family property in Hawaii. You can look into it, and it's really unfortunate because you're just gonna see. You want to look into it. Look into how the family's gonna handle that that situation on their family estate in Hawaii. So you can look into that. But it's not about necessarily having your name off of it. It's just more about being in the correct position. You got to be in the correct position. It's the bottom line. We're not building our last. You're building your last name, but you're building names. Period. So what different? When Rockefeller died, he died with over 300 trusts. You think Donald Trump and these guys have 3 trusts, 5 trusts, 6 trusts? No, they're in a bunch of different pieces of trust that may have one letter of their name. It may have their birthday in their name. I mean, it's crazy when you look at these guys' estates. Like, and why would they have their name? If you're going into politics, why would you have your name on a trust at that point? It just shows people can see, like, are you the creator? You first of all, you're an American citizen for sure. Now we know you're a U.S. citizen because you're in the politics. One. So then, okay, you're in these environments where you think they're gonna have their name on a trust. Why would they do that? A lot of them try to tell you that they poor. Even Donald Trump said he didn't have no money to pay in taxes. Why? Cause he ain't got no report. He ain't got no. He doesn't have a tax return to show, just like the rest of them. So of course he doesn't have anything in his name. So is it one of those things that have that clearly his name's on the side of a building, and you think he's paying to stay in these buildings? No, right? But does he own the name? No. Does he control it? Somewhere, maybe through a royalty, through a copyright. And do you really think just because he sold the last name of Trump because he's branded it as a business cool thing now, do you think like, oh, he's gonna have to pay to stay at the hotel? Probably not. Or anything that has his name associated with it, or the name that he's in control of, or the family estate that's in control of that name. That is generational wealth. And you saw it in front of your face, but people were so color struck. They didn't see the generational wealth. They will never see that. Why? Because his family's about to go back off into the private and ride into the sunsets with called, what is that called? Security for the rest of their life. All their family members are going to have security details because they understand the game. He played private business, and then guess what? He went into the public. And as an aristocrat, whoo, he went in as an aristocrat. I got money and I'm going to go into politics. He went into politics and guess what? He's sitting over there right now with a security detail for the rest of his life. He went in and said, guess what? I don't even have any money to show. And he pointed out that the people he's running against every time, they didn't have any money to show either. Oh, y'all want to show some money? Right. But guess what? That particular gentleman, in which all of them have called out recently, when they want to play that game up there on stage in front of you. Oh, I'm not making any money. You're not making any money. We're not making any money. Ha ha ha. Oh, hold on. Who's paying the taxes? The common people. Let's increase the burden. Why? Did they ever say they were going to lower it? Let's hear that again. Let's increase the burden. Did they ever say they were going to lower it? It's cool. You have to play the game properly. So, questions. That was definitely a good commentary about that particular subject. When you ask, you know, if it could be the same for everyone because you have a life. So why do they call it life rights? Why do they call it a life estate? Why do they call it a living trust? Because it's honoring a piece of property, whether it was for the now and present, or whether it's the memorial, which they created a piece of property called memorabilia. Memorabilia. Are you managing memorabilia? But you don't know that because it's not public information. That's not even just, we don't want to say that it's legal information, but are you managing memorabilia for your family, which is your last name, and not letting people infringe on your family's last name or image or likeness? Maybe not. That's the difference. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening, and replay. Feel free to type any questions you have into the chat. But bottom line, this is the truth. Appreciate the commentary though. Definitely was a good thing once again. So, any additional questions and comments before we hop off? Questions, comments, or challenges, as the mentors would say. I don't agree with you, Trust Christian in the Vault. When you be talking about these Moors out here, we not trying to fall under the United States. I'm not trying to be a 14th Amendment citizen. I'm not trying to be a piece of property under the default de facto United States that's bankrupt. I'm not trying to be one of those citizens that on the debt clock it says I owe a debt to the United States. Oh yeah? Yeah. When they come collect, they came to collect. So people are driven by an unfortunate circumstance called false evidence appearing real. Who's infringing upon your name? Not an entity, it's people. So those guys over at the company that want to play dumb and act like they didn't coerce my friends. Oh, I'm gonna bring my friends in when they coerce my friends. I'm gonna bring them in as witnesses for me when I countersue you too. We're gonna go ahead and lock the case up. I'm a countersue because I got my friends on record. We already entered that in. We're past mediation. We're at the money stage. Y'all suing us or we suing you? We suing you. Oh man, don't sue Trust Christian of all. Who you suing? Ladies and gentlemen, you're not suing your brothers and sisters. You're suing the Fortune 500s that just infringed on you. They got billions of dollars. If you say they're richer than you can sue them. Yes, that's what happens. You gotta sue up. You don't really say, but guess what? Companies will sue you. Definitely will. Yeah, I know they'll sue you if you using that stuff, using different, logos. But then at the same time, the bigger companies don't care because they understand that they got first copyright. So when we talk about the UCC, it's not, oh man, the UCC, this is some scumbag stuff. This UCC, this private UCC stuff, man. This UCC, I got a secure party my name. All right. I gotta secure my life. This is what they come to the vote and say. I gotta put my body in a trust. How you gonna put your body in a trust? Let's think about this, you living man, you living woman. It ain't that easy to say. Property is we don't you don't want to deduce anything to slavery. Since you don't want to deduce it to that, what you do is we understand name, image, and likeness. That's how things are brought up. Because those are laws. Property law. Uh, but what we're gonna go into a question that's in the chat. They said wealthy establish the rules for their benefit. Okay, so let's just think about this. Well, who told anybody to think poor? Who told anybody to think broke? No one told them to think that way. But when you're not internally family put together, you gotta go outside the house to get the information to come back in and build together. That's what those families have done. It's not necessarily that they established the rules for their benefit. It's like, well, when did the rules start? Look, every jurisdiction doesn't have the same rules. You're not going to be limited in your jurisdiction, are you? Because these big companies, they're not. And these companies are run by families. Don't think they're just run by small people or people in general. Like, oh, the workers, the workers. No, like these companies, these teams, sports teams, they're owned by families. Families own these businesses in the private sector, not the public sector. The private sector. We could say the public sector too, but the private sector is families. There's no public in the private. It's private families running private companies. So it's not that they need to make the rules for their benefit. They use the rules for their benefit. That's how it goes. Because their family may have been first or second generation. The country's been around for generations now. So they might have been first or second or third generation. Everybody that's getting money is or has money now isn't always third or fourth generation. You all say you meet millionaires on the internet all the time. You all say you meet these guys or whoever. Didn't they say they were millionaires? Isn't that what they say? Oh, I'm a millionaire on paper, or I'm a billionaire on paper. Okay. Start thinking like the wealthy. Use the rules the way they do. Yeah, that was a great follow up for sure. Reading that. Is that what trustee training helps to learn? For sure. The trustee training is definitely focused on that. There's a lot more to the trustee training. It involves more just the focus on consultations for individual families and comes that come through because every case is different. It's not just like this cookie cutter approach to you know anything. Sure, the rules. Sure, the rules. The rules, once again, are known by your lawyers and your accountants. They know the rules. That's the best part about you not having to be the smartest person in the room. So we don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You got the rules, you got the lawyers, you got the accountants, and then is that what trustee training? And so that's what it goes deeper than that. Because then you get back to the individual families and individuals that what is their goal, what are their dreams, what are their specific things, and then you build kind of like the vehicle. Finally, the roadmap is their dreams and their goals. The vehicle is anytime you can change the vehicle. That could be LLCs, trusteeships, that could be positions, you as a manager, you as trustees. Vehicles and drivers and passengers, they change. The map is your vision. The map is your dream, what you dream your life to be. And if you dream that people can just steal your name while you're living and your image while you're dead, even before you're dead, that's on you. But in the ecosystem of name, image, and likeness, if you're aware of this, you just put yourself in a position to win. Do you have to spend some dollars to win? Sure, that's what suing's all about. Making money you got to spend some money to make some money. Invest some money to make some money. That's how it works. Invest some time to make some time back. There you go. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Feel free to reach out, Christian@trustchristian.com, Christian@trustchristian.com. We've actually already got requests for our next workshop. We would love to tell you all that we just gonna do a workshop before the end of the year. But if y'all understood at the vault that we would only do it if we had a minimum count, you can email the vault. We've already gotten requests, but we're going to do a minimum number. And if it doesn't meet that minimum number, which is usually our room is, we're not going to talk about those numbers in public because the room doesn't matter. We saying it right now. If we get to a point where we get enough requests, we'll do a bigger one. But we're already around with the families this year, and we always have been. We make it a point to be near our families, but we do have the quarterly workshops that we like to do. If you want to attend the next quarterly workshop, hey, we would like to say, oh, send over a date. Because look, at the end of the day, we're going to do them in Orlando where we've done them at, which has been a great location. And if we did it, okay, you got until November. We're going to push it out till the first week of November. Guess what? We know the market. We're not just months ahead, we're years ahead, but we got to stay at least a few months ahead. And a few months ahead, that's Thanksgiving for most people in the West. And then you got another holiday right after that. So we're just being aware of, hey, oh, you're supposed to have the money for that. Yeah, right, man. We're not going to put our audience through that. We know what the past 2 years have been about for people and their families, seeing their families. This might be one of those opportunities for them. They ain't seen their family in almost 2 years. So, we're just going to focus on, just if we get enough of demand, we'll put it out there. We'll do our best to get it squared up before the end of 10. But that's the thing. Then you only get, it's just tight. If y'all want a workshop at the end of the year, beginning of November, feel free to reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com. Otherwise, we're doing trustee training, private trustee training, Christian at trustchristian.com. Peace and joy.